The following is a presentation of Relentless Podcast Network.
This is a clip from an IVMV Live broadcast, which airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. on our website, www.ivmv.com. Click on the live broadcast button to watch. You can also watch through the Ustream iOS and Android apps. The audio podcast version of the show is available on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, Intune, and many other iOS and Android podcasting apps, or directly on our site. Thanks for watching, enjoy, and go Cubs. So on last week's episode, we had exactly 0 wins to talk about, and since that episode, the Cubs have gone 4-2 in the last week against some pretty tough competition, I'd say, in the Reds, the Cardinals, and the Phillies. And we were pretty down on the Cubs on the last podcast, and one listener tweeted to us that it was a depressing episode.
Well, this week we're brimming with optimism, right?
It's going to be less depressing.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that. So now with some wins and a series win against the Cardinals, which is, I don't care how bad the Cubs are, that's a good thing. Do you think that we might have some more pleasant surprises here in the short term?
When you say pleasant surprises, what exactly do you mean?
Like a series win?
I think over last week you've really seen the relief pitching come down and settle down, and it's nice to see them come to their own, and they haven't really blown too many games lately, so it's always...
So you really think they found their
stride?
They found their identity as a team?
I don't think they really have an identity at this point, but
I think they kind of do.
They're starting to.
It's a bad identity. It's an identity crisis.
But yeah, it's nice to see them put together a nice week of baseball and win the series against the Cardinals, and they're off to a good start against the Phillies. So
yeah, against
Roy Halladay,
right?
Yeah,
and they already have some injuries too, and they're playing better with even through the injuries to Kerry Wood, and Dempster's missed one start, right?
Yeah,
since he's been on the DL.
Mm-hmm. And I think they're saying he'll be back like the 2nd or 3rd of May, so short term. Kurt, what do you think?
I'm not ready to, start predicting playoff berths or anything, but I will say it's definitely more fun to watch, and that's kind of my basis for success this year is entertaining baseball. So, that Cardinals series was definitely a lot more entertaining, and then last night with the Phillies was a fun game to watch, seeing them handle them well, especially against Halladay, which I kind of thought, with the lack of offense, Halladay could just shut them down, but it went well. So, I'm enjoying watching, but my expectations are still about the same.
Are you guys able to still feel like you're entertained even with losses? Or do you feel like it has to be a win to feel like you were entertained?
I'm entertained as long as they're not the stupid mistakes they've been making. That frustrates me. No matter what, these guys are still professionals, and there are certain things at this level they shouldn't do. Bad base running, things like that just frustrate me.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say as long as they're trying, they're fighting as a team, and I hate it when they get blanked, or they only produce 1 run. So as long as they get a few runs and they're playing hard and playing to win, and they end up on the losing end of things, I can still enjoy a game.
Yeah, as long as there's some bright spot to take away from a particular game. If they're doing one aspect of the game well, or if somebody has a good game, then you're like, yeah, all right.
And I got to say, having players like Campana helps make it more entertaining. I mean, I know we're going to talk about him a little bit in a little bit, but I don't know, just having different types of players, it's not just a vanilla team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm almost more entertained when they do stupid mistakes. Because it just happens, and you just like, oh, it's the Cubs, and it cracks me up when they have 5 errors in an inning, or the pitcher gets smoked in the first inning and they're down by 7 runs.
You are sick, man. You are sick.
You are.
It cracks me. I mean, it doesn't crack me up, but it's just you have nothing to say. It's just besides it's the Cubs, and
People hate him at the game watches.
Yeah.
He's laughing. And the Cubs are
But
losing.
no, but when they win, it's awesome. So
Yeah.
euphoria.
Brian is entertained no matter what they do.
Well, I predicted that the Cubs wouldn't win a series on the last episode. I said they wouldn't win a series until after the middle of May. And I all along, especially like when you look at the strength, or I guess the difficulty of this schedule in the first month and a half, you knew the team was going to struggle quite a bit. And I thought that they might come into their own like in the second half of the season. And but what I expected to see in the second half is really a lot of the things we've seen here in the last week, where they just kind of some low-scoring games and good pitching performances and some timely hitting, and just capitalizing on opportunities. And that's what they've done. And I don't think they're going to go out there and knock the cover off the ball on a consistent basis or anything like that. But the pitching's keeping them in games, and the offense is coming through when it needs to. So, I mean, look at those 2 wins over the Cardinals. You know, that's a scrappiness that we haven't seen in a long time, really. So, I don't know. It's a different kind of scrappiness than like 2008, because it seemed like in 2008, like late in the game, you felt like, okay, somebody's going to come up here and hit a home run, and we're going to go ahead. So, but now it's like, if you can get somebody on base, then it's like, all right, we have a chance of making something happen here.
Yeah, especially.
Go ahead.
No, especially if you get someone on base and you have Campana on the bench, and
Right.
and you put him as a pinch runner, and he'll make it to third on 1 steal.
What's
Really?
he just runs straight across the diamond, I think.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked about. Did you have something to say, Andy?
No, go ahead.
You were just kissing your mic.
Yeah,
Okay.
checking to see. I never developed object permanence as a baby, so like, if something's out of my field of vision, like I have a hard time believing that it still exists. Like right now, I'm having a hard time believing Kurt exists.
I don't.
Well, Andy, you kind of brought him up, and Brian, you did too. I think a major reason for the spark with this team has been Tony Campana. And when he started off the season in Iowa, I kind of took issue with that on the podcast, you know, just because I think he adds an element to the team that no one else on this team can even come close to replicating. I mean, Castro's fast, but nothing like that, you know. And I mean, just with what he's done this week, I feel like maybe I was actually right in my opinion. Feel vindicated, I guess. But I wrote a post on the website on this topic right after the series with the Cardinals, and I don't know. Do you guys think I'm just like a sucker for the overachieving, scrappy pipsqueak, or is he as valuable as I think he is?
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, at the same time, you rarely see a pitcher, you know, who's pitching when Campana's on first base, whom you can't tell that he's like really struggling with the idea that guy's on first base, you know? Like it's weighing heavily on the pitcher's mind. You can almost just see it in their body language all the time.
Well, and you weren't able to watch last night's game,
Yeah.
but he completely got in Halliday's head.
Yeah, he
Right.
did. That's what
I mean, yeah.
yeah, he got that bunt single in the 4th, and after he stole second, I think that screwed up Halladay. He was worried about him, and I think did he end up scoring that inning?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, and then it happened again. Like
he
the
scored
6th.
on like a little bloop single.
Yeah, by Castro. That's
Yeah.
right. Yep.
So, yeah, but I mean, even with a veteran, you know, top pitcher like Halladay, Campana is able to distract him. And, you know, I don't remember, I watched the game on TV and listened on the radio. I don't remember which broadcast it was, but they they brought up the point that was when Halladay's pitch count went way up, was, you know, because he was moving along pretty good and in pretty good rhythm. And then once Campana got on base, you know, he seemed to kind of lose it.
That's a good point too. A base runner like that can throw a pitcher off of his rhythm, and that's big. You know, you kind of get them out of their routine, and they have to make changes and adjustments, and that can be big.
Well, especially when you have a guy that's been able, you know, hasn't had to pitch from the stretch. You know, I don't know. It just, yeah, you're right. It throws off the rhythm. I don't know what I was trying to say
and
there.
the other interesting thing about Campana is I looked up some of his stats because Len and Bob were talking about it last week, and I put this on when Corey wrote a post. I put a comment up, so you may have already heard this, but he's reached base, and this stat is a little bit older, so it may be a little bit off, but 53 times that he's reached base, he has 28 stolen bases. So everybody knows he's running, and he's only been caught twice. So, I mean, that kind of speed is it's a game changer, especially with as many close games as the Cubs tend to have.
Yeah, it's not a mystery. I mean, the opposing team is fully aware that he is a weapon the Cubs are going to use, and they still can't do much about it. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, and like the point that you raised, Brian, that it's nice to his weakness is getting on base. Mm-hmm. And so if you can have him on the bench and then bring him in when somebody else gets on base in the 8th or 9th inning, then he's valuable. And
really lately, like he's been getting on base pretty well too. Like his bat's been
I think this might be outdated,
decent.
But he was hitting 389 and he had an on base percentage of 421. So I mean, but those numbers are going to go down. I mean, that's inflated.
Yeah.
Right
now.
Yeah. But in case you haven't been able to watch in the last week. In the second game of the Cardinals series, they brought him into pinch hit in the 8th, and he got a base hit. And then while Darwin Barney was batting, he stole 2 bases, and within one batter was 90 feet from scoring. And in the last game of the Cardinals series, he got a base hit in the 10th. He stole second, and then scored on Soriano's base hit, which I'm really not sure anybody else on the team would have been. Maybe Castro, but there's a lot of guys on that team that wouldn't have been, because it didn't really.
He was out anyways, but
no. Oh yeah, stealing second.
Yeah,
I was talking about at home.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he was out at second.
Yeah, he was.
But I think a realistic concern that we have to, if we're being realistic, is that we got to expect those numbers to go down, and the possibility that they could go way down his on base,
right?
Just as getting on base.
But that's when I guess you use him as the pinch runner's role.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Besides Campana, they don't really have much of an option for center field besides Reed Johnson or Joe Mather. And out of all those guys, I'd rather see Tony Campana out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and right now you might as well, because he's hitting the ball.
Yeah. And he's a great defender. He has all that speed in the outfield, so there's no reason not to use him.
Yeah. If he could just hit the ball out of the infield. I mean, but he doesn't have to.
No, he's not. I don't think he's trying to. I think he's just trying to hit it away from.
He would have been great at like Old Busch Stadium, where you just like pound the ball into the turf and then beat it out. Like that's why Ozzie Smith was so so successful there, is because with that AstroTurf you just pound it in and then beat it out.
I just like
oh, no.
I just like how you mentioned Bush and AstroTurf and pounding it in all in one sentence.
Beating it out.
And beating it out. Oh, man.
Wow.
Well, on that note, I should point out, Kurt, are you keeping an eye on the chat?
I am.
Okay, so if you're watching live...
Yeah, DeRose wants to let Brian know that he sucks. That's kind of the main gist of the early chat.
I take it he's not one of the two then.
Is DeRose your mom?
Yeah, he's not on the fan list.
Oh, no.
Well, so yeah, if you're watching live, you can go over to click on the chat thing, and then you can, I think it's real easy to register, and you can chat there. Kurt will keep an eye on it, and if you have anything good to say it, and Kurt will jump in with it.
Yeah, I'll try.
But back to Campana, 5 stolen bases in 6 games. And, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, when he was sent to Iowa, it's like, the Cubs don't have a lot of firepower on this team, and they're not going to hit home runs. They're not going to – it's just not the 2007, 2008 team, and so I think he's just huge with generating runs. And, I don't know. Maybe on a team that can knock the ball all over the park, maybe Campana isn't that valuable to a team like that, but with the way that this team is constructed right now, I think he's very valuable.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen it in the last week since he's been called up. But over the course of a season, like you said, Andy, we'll see.
Yep.